Tonight, federal investigators have crushed a massive Chinese shadow banking operation, seizing over $312 billion.
A multi-year federal investigation has culminated in what prosecutors are calling the most extensive underground banking operation ever prosecuted on American soil. $312 billion, 89 arrests across 14 states, coordinated raids executed at 73 locations in a single dawn operation. According to federal court documents unsealed this week, FBI and Treasury Department investigators, working alongside ICE, the DEA, and the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, have dismantled a sophisticated Chinese shadow banking network that operated undetected for nearly a decade. This is how federal agents built the case, and what they uncovered exposes vulnerabilities in America's financial system that officials say demand immediate reform. The investigation began with a routine audit. In June 2019, Treasury Department compliance analysts flagged a pattern of wire transfers moving through small money service businesses in Los Angeles' Chinatown district. Each transaction stayed just below federal reporting thresholds. Individually, the transfers appeared unremarkable. But analysts noticed something unusual. According to internal Treasury memos obtained by investigators, the same dozen businesses processed wire transfers totaling $847 million over an 18-month period. That figure immediately drew attention. These were not banks, they were small storefronts, a jewelry shop, 2 import-export offices, and a travel agency. Businesses with no legitimate reason to handle such massive cash flows. Federal prosecutors requested surveillance authorization. For 6 months, agents documented activity at the Los Angeles locations. What they observed led to a critical discovery. According to court filings, customers entered these storefronts carrying duffel bags and backpacks and emerged minutes later empty-handed. Surveillance teams documented more than 3,000 such visits. The pattern was clear. The question was where the money was going. Financial analysis would provide the answer. Forensic accountants traced the wire transfers and found that the money moved through a network of shell companies with accounts in Hong Kong, Singapore, Dubai, and the Cayman Islands. The transfers followed coordinated sequences. Funds left Los Angeles and appeared in Hong Kong within hours. From there, the money split into dozens of smaller transfers, each routed through different offshore entities before landing in mainland China. Prosecutors described the system as a digital maze designed to obscure the money's origin and destination. According to the indictment, this was not random criminal activity. It was a highly organized financial infrastructure. That paper trail led investigators to a startling realization: the Los Angeles storefronts were not isolated operations. Court documents reveal that federal agents identified similar networks operating in San Francisco, New York, Houston, Chicago, Seattle, Boston, Miami, Atlanta, Las Vegas, Phoenix, Dallas, Minneapolis, Portland, and Philadelphia. Each city had multiple locations, and each location processed millions of dollars every week. Treasury officials estimate the network handled between $18 billion and $26 billion annually. While the exact figure remains under investigation, prosecutors cite the $312 billion total based on seized financial records documenting transactions from 2015 through 2024. Evidence suggests the network served multiple criminal enterprises. According to testimony from cooperating witnesses, Chinese nationals living in the United States used these shadow banks to move money earned from illegal activities back to China without detection. Drug trafficking organizations use the system to launder proceeds from fentanyl and methamphetamine sales. Business owners exploited it to evade taxes and bypass currency controls. Federal prosecutors identified more than 12,000 individuals who used the network, but investigators still wanted to know who was running it. Intercepted communications provided the breakthrough. FBI agents obtained authorization to monitor encrypted messaging apps used by network operators. According to court filings, those messages revealed a sophisticated command structure. The network had regional managers overseeing city-level operations, each reporting to a central coordination hub. Investigators discovered that the hub operated from multiple locations, including Los Angeles, New York, and Hong Kong. The messages documented daily transaction volumes, discussed strategies for avoiding detection, and coordinated responses when law enforcement showed interest in specific locations. The level of organization surprised even veteran investigators. Court records identify the network's alleged leader as Chen Wei-ming, a 53-year-old businessman who operated import-export companies in Los Angeles and maintained residences in California, New York, and Hong Kong. According to the indictment, Chen oversaw the entire operation, making strategic decisions about expansion, setting transaction limits, and managing relationships with criminal clients. Investigators traced communications showing that Chen personally approved high-value transfers exceeding $50 million. His digital signature appeared on thousands of authorization documents seized from encrypted servers. Federal prosecutors describe him as the architect of America's largest shadow banking system. But Chen did not operate alone. The indictment names 88 co-conspirators, including regional managers, storefront operators, money couriers, and financial facilitators. Court documents detail how each individual played a specific role. Some managed day-to-day storefront operations, accepting cash from customers and initiating wire transfers. Others served as couriers, transporting bulk cash between cities to balance accounts. Several worked as hackers, maintaining encrypted communication systems and digital ledgers that track transactions. Prosecutors say the network employed more than 300 people across its 14-state footprint. Evidence analysis revealed how the system exploited regulatory gaps. According to federal financial crime experts, money service businesses face less stringent oversight than traditional banks. The network took advantage of this. Operators would register businesses, operate them for 12 to 18 months while staying below reporting thresholds, then shut them down and open new entities under different names. Records show the network cycled through more than 200 business registrations over 9 years. Each time regulators began examining one entity, it would close and the operation would shift to a newly registered business. This rotation strategy allowed the network to avoid sustained scrutiny. The network also exploited international banking systems. According to Treasury officials, money leaving the United States enters a complex global financial infrastructure where tracking becomes difficult. The shadow banking network used this to its advantage. Transfers moved through legitimate international banks, but the beneficial owners remained hidden behind shell companies. Banking institutions in Hong Kong and Singapore processed the transfers without knowledge of the fund's criminal origins. Federal investigators describe this as a systemic vulnerability increasingly exploited by criminals. What agents discovered next expanded the case dramatically. While analyzing seized financial records, investigators found evidence that the shadow banking network laundered money for major drug trafficking organizations. DEA reports indicate that Mexican cartels, particularly the Sinaloa cartel and CJNG, used the network to repatriate drug proceeds from U.S. distribution operations. Court documents detail how cartel representatives delivered bulk cash to network locations in Los Angeles, Houston, and Phoenix. That cash then moved through the shadow banking system, ending up in accounts controlled by cartel leaders in Mexico and South America. DEA estimates that approximately $87 billion of the total $312 billion came from drug trafficking proceeds. The connection to fentanyl trafficking particularly alarmed investigators. According to federal prosecutors, Chinese chemical suppliers provided precursor chemicals to Mexican cartels, which manufactured fentanyl in labs south of the border before smuggling the finished product into the United States. The shadow banking network completed the circle. Cartel payments for Chinese precursor chemicals moved through the same underground financial channels that Chinese nationals use to repatriate money. Prosecutors describe it as a self-contained criminal ecosystem where multiple illegal enterprises supported each other. DEA officials estimate this system facilitated the distribution of approximately 400 tons of fentanyl into American communities over the past decade. By late 2023, federal investigators had built a comprehensive case. The evidence was overwhelming. Seized servers contained detailed transaction logs documenting every transfer. Intercepted communications showed clear criminal intent. Cooperating witnesses provided testimony about the network's operations. Financial analysis traced the money flows. Federal prosecutors spent months preparing indictments, coordinating with international law enforcement partners, and planning a coordinated takedown operation. The scale required unprecedented cooperation between agencies. According to operational plans, the raids needed to happen simultaneously across 14 states to prevent network operators from destroying evidence or fleeing. Federal authorities set the operation for January 23, 2025. At 3:47 a.m. Pacific Time, more than 2,000 federal agents began executing search warrants. From the FBI's Los Angeles field office, commanders coordinated 73 simultaneous raids. SWAT teams, FBI agents, ICE investigators, DEA personnel, IRS criminal investigators, and local law enforcement officers moved on locations in every target city. According to after-action reports, the operation represented one of the largest coordinated law enforcement actions in American history. The planning had taken 8 months. The execution took less than 4 hours. In Los Angeles, tactical teams hit 9 locations simultaneously. At a jewelry store in Chinatown, agents found $14 million in cash stored in hidden compartments beneath display cases. Seized laptops contained encrypted ledgers documenting $43 billion in transactions processed through that single location over 6 years. At a nearby import-export office, investigators discovered a sophisticated money counting room where cash was sorted, verified, and prepared for transfer. Evidence logs show agents seized $8.7 million in currency, along with industrial money counters and vacuum seal packaging equipment. Security footage from the location showed customers making deposits at all hours of the day and night. The Los Angeles mansion registered to Chen Wei-ming yielded critical evidence. According to court documents, agents executing the search warrant found a hidden office behind a bookshelf in the home's library. Inside that office, investigators discovered servers containing the network's complete operational records. Forensic analysis of those servers provided the evidence foundation for the entire case. Prosecutors described the data as the Rosetta Stone of the investigation. Detailed transaction logs, customer databases, communication archives, and financial projections that documented the network's full scope. Agents also seized $23 million in cash stored in a climate-controlled vault beneath the mansion's wine cellar. Raids in New York targeted locations in Manhattan, Queens, and Brooklyn. At a money service business in Flushing, Queens, federal agents found evidence suggesting the location processed more than $50 million monthly. Seized records documented wire transfers to accounts in 47 countries. Investigators arrested 3 individuals at that location, including a regional manager who prosecutors say oversaw operations across the entire Northeast corridor. According to charging documents, this individual coordinated activities at 17 locations from Boston to Philadelphia. Communications seized from his encrypted devices showed daily reports on transaction volumes, discussions about avoiding law enforcement scrutiny, and instructions for handling high-value clients. In Houston, investigators focused on locations near the city's large Chinese-American community. Court records show agents executed search warrants at 6 businesses, seizing more than $31 million in cash and arresting 11 individuals. One location, operating as a travel agency, processed wire transfers totaling $8 billion over a 4-year period, according to seized financial records. The business had 2 employees and a small office. Investigators found the disparity between the business's apparent size and its transaction volume immediately suspicious. Analysis revealed the travel agency never booked a single vacation package. It existed solely as a front for money transmission. Chicago raids produced evidence linking the shadow banking network to organized retail theft rings. According to prosecutors, criminals would steal high-value merchandise from stores across the Midwest, sell it to fencing operations, and then use shadow banks to move the proceeds. Court documents detail how theft ring operators preferred the shadow banking system because it left no traditional banking records. One arrested individual told investigators that criminal organizations considered these underground financial services essential to their operations. Without the shadow banks, prosecutors say, many criminal enterprises would struggle to function. The coordinated operation extended to West Coast cities beyond Los Angeles. In San Francisco, federal agents raided 5 locations, seizing $18 million and arresting 7 individuals. In Seattle, raids targeted 4 businesses in the International District, resulting in $9 million seized and 6 arrests. Portland operations yielded $5 million and 3 arrests. Each location followed the same pattern: small storefront businesses processing massive transaction volumes. Evidence logs show investigators seized encrypted phones, laptops, ledgers, cash counting equipment, and millions in currency at every location. Southeast operations produced similar results. Miami raids targeted 6 locations, resulting in 12 arrests and $27 million seized. Atlanta operations hit 4 businesses, seizing $11 million and arresting 5 individuals. According to court filings, the Miami locations served drug trafficking organizations moving cocaine and methamphetamine proceeds. Intercepted communications showed network operators discussing transactions with Colombian and Mexican cartel representatives. DEA agents participating in the Miami raids found evidence suggesting those locations handled approximately $2 billion annually, primarily from narcotics trafficking. Southwest operations focused on cities near the Mexican border. Phoenix raids executed at 8 locations resulted in 14 arrests and $34 million seized. Evidence there directly linked the shadow banking network to cartel money laundering. Prosecutors say Phoenix served as a critical hub where drug proceeds entered the system before moving to accounts controlled by trafficking organizations. Dallas and Las Vegas raids produced similar evidence, with agents seizing more than $40 million combined and arresting 17 individuals. Border Patrol and ICE agents participated in these operations due to the cross-border criminal connections. By the operation's end, federal authorities had arrested 89 individuals, including Chen Wei-ming, who agents apprehended at Los Angeles International Airport attempting to board a flight to Hong Kong. Court documents state he was carrying $2.3 million in cash, multiple encrypted phones, and falsified travel documents. At the time of his arrest, prosecutors say Chen was coordinating an emergency shutdown of network operations, sending encrypted messages instructing managers to destroy evidence and disperse cash holdings. His arrest prevented that effort. The evidence seizure was massive. Agents documented and removed more than $437 million in cash from the 73 raided locations. And they seized 473 encrypted devices, 287 laptops and computers, and countless documents. Forensic examination of electronic evidence would take months. Preliminary analysis confirmed what investigators suspected. The network had processed approximately $312 billion over its operational lifetime. Treasury officials describe it as the largest money laundering operation ever discovered in the United States. The human cost was staggering. Federal prosecutors note that billions of the laundered funds came from narcotics trafficking that destroyed communities across America. Analysis of the network's methods revealed sophisticated criminal innovation. According to financial crime experts consulting with federal prosecutors, the shadow banking system exploited specific vulnerabilities in international finance. This money moves across borders faster than regulatory oversight can track it. Shell companies hide beneficial ownership. Cryptocurrency provides additional anonymity layers. The network used all these tools. Court documents detail how operators sometimes converted cash to cryptocurrency, transferred it to offshore wallets, then converted it back to traditional currency in destination countries. This added complexity made tracking nearly impossible without the extensive forensic work that investigators ultimately performed. The network also exploited cultural and linguistic barriers. According to testimony, many customers were recent Chinese immigrants who distrusted traditional American banks or feared their financial activities would be reported to Chinese authorities. The shadow banking network marketed itself as a safe, discreet alternative. Operators spoke Mandarin and Cantonese, understood cultural norms, and provided services that made customers feel comfortable. Prosecutors say this cultural connection helped the network grow rapidly within Chinese American communities. Many customers did not realize they were participating in an illegal operation. They simply wanted to send money to family members in China. Evidence shows network operators knew exactly what they were doing. Seized communications contained explicit discussions about avoiding detection, strategies for evading regulators, and methods for serving criminal clients. Messages showed operators joking about the illegality of their activities. Some communications discussed how to identify undercover law enforcement officers attempting to infiltrate the network. Training materials found on seized devices instructed new operators on techniques for structuring transactions to avoid reporting requirements. Federal prosecutors argue this demonstrates clear criminal intent. The indictment charges all 89 defendants with conspiracy to operate an unlicensed money-transmitting business, conspiracy to commit money laundering, and multiple counts of money laundering. Chen Weiming faces additional charges including racketeering, which carries a potential sentence of life imprisonment. Federal prosecutors have also filed civil forfeiture actions to seize assets purchased with laundered funds, including luxury real estate in California, New York, and overseas, high-end vehicles and investment accounts. The government estimates forfeiture actions could recover more than $800 million in criminally derived assets. Several defendants have begun cooperating with investigators. According to court filings, at least 12 individuals have entered plea agreements in exchange for reduced sentences and have provided testimony about the network's operations. Their cooperation has given prosecutors detailed insider knowledge about how the system functioned. One cooperating witness, a former regional manager, testified that the network had plans to expand into additional cities and was exploring new technologies including cryptocurrency exchanges and blockchain-based transfer systems. Prosecutors say this cooperation is providing intelligence about criminal financial infrastructure that extends beyond this specific case. Evidence shows network operators knew exactly what they were doing. Seized communications contained explicit discussions about avoiding detection, strategies for evading regulators, and methods for serving criminal clients. Messages showed operators joking about the illegality of their activities. Some communications discussed how to identify undercover law enforcement officers attempting to infiltrate the network. Training materials found on seized devices instructed new operators on techniques for structuring transactions to avoid reporting requirements. Federal prosecutors argue this demonstrates clear criminal intent. The indictment charges all 89 defendants with conspiracy to operate an unlicensed money-transmitting business, conspiracy to commit money laundering, and multiple counts of money laundering. Chen Weiming faces additional charges including racketeering, which carries a potential sentence of life imprisonment. Federal prosecutors have also filed civil forfeiture actions to seize assets purchased with laundered funds, including luxury real estate in California, New York, and overseas, high-end vehicles and investment accounts. The government estimates forfeiture actions could recover more than $800 million in criminally derived assets. Several defendants have begun cooperating with investigators. According to court filings, at least 12 individuals have entered plea agreements in exchange for reduced sentences and have provided testimony about the network's operations. Their cooperation has given prosecutors detailed insider knowledge about how the system functioned. One cooperating witness, a former regional manager, testified that the network had plans to expand into additional cities and was exploring new technologies, including cryptocurrency exchanges and blockchain-based transfer systems. Prosecutors say this cooperation is providing intelligence about criminal financial infrastructure that extends beyond this specific case. Federal investigators learned valuable lessons about detecting underground financial networks. According to case agents, early warning signs included small businesses processing transaction volumes inconsistent with their apparent size, repeated structuring of transactions just below reporting thresholds, and rapid cycling of business registrations. Treasury officials say they are now using these indicators to identify potentially similar networks. Several ongoing investigations have been initiated based on patterns that match the Chinese shadow banking case. Officials expect additional prosecutions in the coming years. The prosecution faces challenges. Defense attorneys argue that many defendants were small-scale operators who did not understand the full scope of the network they participated in. Some claim their clients believed they were operating legitimate money transfer services for immigrant communities underserved by traditional banks. Prosecutors counter that the evidence shows widespread knowledge of illegality and deliberate efforts to avoid detection. The trial, scheduled for federal court in Los Angeles, is expected to last several months. Legal experts say it will be one of the most complex financial crime prosecutions in American history. The human impact extends beyond arrest statistics. Communities where the shadow banking network operated must now reckon with the reality that businesses they trusted were criminal enterprises. Chinese American community leaders have expressed concern about potential stigmatization. They emphasize that the vast majority of Chinese immigrants and business owners are law-abiding citizens who had no connection to the shadow banking network. Federal officials have tried to address these concerns, noting that the investigation targeted specific criminal organizations, not entire communities, but the cultural and social repercussions will likely persist for years. The investigation continues. Federal prosecutors say additional indictments are expected as agents follow leads generated from seized evidence. Several individuals identified in communications and financial records remain fugitives, believed to have fled to China or other countries before arrests could be made. The Justice Department has issued international warrants and is working with foreign law enforcement partners to locate and extradite these suspects. Treasury officials are also conducting broader review of money service business registrations nationwide, looking for patterns that might indicate similar operations. This case demonstrates that no criminal network, however sophisticated, is beyond the reach of determined investigation. Federal agents spent years building this case, analyzing millions of financial transactions, coordinating across agencies and international borders, and methodically dismantling a system that criminals believed was undetectable. Prosecutors describe it as a model for combating modern financial crime. The techniques used, forensic accounting, electronic surveillance, international cooperation, and pressure to generate cooperating witnesses, represent the current best practices in investigating complex criminal enterprises. Officials also acknowledge uncomfortable truths. The shadow banking network operated successfully for nearly a decade because regulatory systems failed to detect it. Billions of dollars moved through these channels, financing drug trafficking that killed tens of thousands of Americans, funding organized crime, and facilitating massive tax evasion. The question is not just how to prosecute those responsible. It is how to prevent the next network from emerging. Treasury officials say that requires not just law enforcement action, but fundamental reforms to financial oversight systems. Without those reforms, experts warn, similar operations will continue to exploit the same vulnerabilities this network used.